Now, if you have ADHD, there's a pretty good chance that you're probably drinking quite a fair bit of coffee. Maybe you love coffee, maybe you have a few more cups per day than the people around you, or maybe you're one of those people that says like, oh, I just don't talk to me until I've had my morning coffee. That's very normal. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why caffeine and coffee has such an important role with people with ADHD, how caffeine affects dopamine, a little bit of other things, and some things that you might want to consider to get a little bit more out of your caffeine consumption while also thinking about, pros and cons. Anyway, we'll get into all that. First of all, I love coffee, and I'm not going to tell anyone to not drink any coffee right now, unless, of course, you have other specifically very good reasons that you shouldn't do that, like your heart is about to explode right this second. Probably don't drink coffee then. But I love coffee. This video is not about saying coffee is bad. It's going to be about talking a little bit about why we use it, and again, how you can get a little bit more out of it. So if you're new to the channel, and we're going to get into all that soon, but if you're new to the channel, my name's Jack. I have ADHD and I'm an ADHD coach. And this is where I share the tips, tricks, strategies, whatever, things that help me and have helped my clients have better lives. So, coffee. Love the stuff, and we need to be quite careful. So the reason that people with ADHD really, really love coffee more than their peers is because if we think about ADHD as a lack of dopamine, which is an oversimplification, but it's a big oversimplification, but let's just pretend for now that the brain isn't producing as much dopamine. So there's still some, it's just not as much as other people around us. Now, dopamine in general has a lot of roles and functions related to reinforcing behavior, and it's about motivation. It's about the stuff that helps us get up and take action and do the things that we're sort of supposed to. Dopamine does that. It is not about reward. Let's get very clear about that. You do not just feel good and have dopamine. That's more oxytocin and so, other chemical soup is involved in that. So dopamine is not about reward. Let's be very, very clear about that. It's about reinforcement and motivation. And reinforcement is different to reward. We'll get into that in another video. In this case, we're mainly looking at motivation, because the reason that people drink coffee is because they're trying to do things, they're trying to get motivated, they're trying to take action. And the ADHD, one of the baseline states, especially if we have the more inattentive presentation, which is useless language, but anyway, the version of us where we're just flat, we can't get up, there's too much going on, or it feels like there's nothing going on, the brain is just like, and everything's just, we're just overwhelmed and stuck and not moving. Often, or sometimes, we turn to coffee thinking, yeah, that'll help us, that'll get us up and moving. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't though. Sometimes increasing the caffeine just increases our heart rate, which combined with another condition that's part of ADHD called POTS, which affects our heart and heart rate. Sometimes caffeine can make us just feel extra anxious. So, yay, go that. No, not ideal. And very, very, very commonly, people with ADHD and my clients share with me that they might drink 5, 6, 7, 8 more. I had a client, they said, he'd be in his 50s, and he shared that he was drinking 12 to 13 cups of coffee a day, and that's just sort of just what he needed to get by, or to that's his normal dose, or normal amount, or whatever. And he'd been doing that for years, and yeah, that's what he required. Now, please don't do that. Not really that good for most people's hearts. So why do we do that? Well, when we don't have as much dopamine in our brain, then one thing that coffee does, or rather that caffeine does, because we can get caffeine from other sources, your Red Bull, your energy drinks, you could smash a lot of green tea, but people usually go straight to the harder stuff than that. But what's going on, it's something called dopamine sensitivity. And so it's not that our brains have zero dopamine, or it's not that they are not producing any. They're producing some, but it's not really quite as much as we might like. So let's just make up some numbers. So let's say that neurotypical brain, a normal brain, might produce 5 dopamines. Making up some units, right? Maybe you and I, ADHD brains, we might produce 1 or 2. Now, one thing that we can do, and we can look at a whole lot of, medications and other pharmacological interventions to help our brains liberate more dopamine. There's other behaviors and actions we can take too to boost those up, sleep, diet, exercise, cold immersions, lots of things. You keeping up? Lots of stuff, but those can all boost our levels of dopamine, but let's just presume that we have 2 units instead of 5 that other people might have. Now, if we've spent our entire lifetime living like that, well, we've learned and developed a whole lot of strategies to get that 2 dopamine, those 2 dopamines, to be able to get us by. Now, one of the ways that we might do that is by having a huge amount of coffee, because coffee increases dopamine sensitivity. So while we might have 2 little molecules rattling around in there, dopamine sensitivity essentially makes them more effective, makes them more efficient. So instead of just bouncing around and not quite going in the right places, the caffeine, it has relationships with adrenaline, noradrenaline, and that relates to your dopamine sensitivity. So having lots of coffee is a way to get your 2 dopamines to work as hard as if they were 5. Now, it's pretty short term, it's not really sustainable, because we're kind of just like cracking a whip and getting these 2 poor little molecules like, oh, I'll do my best to do more than they're really capable of. But if that's our only way, if that's all that we've had access to up until that point, well, can you blame us? So another thing that often happens, and in my work with my, in my role as a coach, often I'm helping people along their journey exploring the ADHD medications. And one thing that often happens is as people start more and more, exploring the medication, they realize that perhaps they actually don't need to be drinking as much coffee as they used to. But they still have in their mind, oh no, I drink 5 cups a day, that's my amount. And they take the ADHD meds, and they probably on a physiological level don't need that much anymore, but they've been having 5, they have 2 in the morning and 2, they have a routine for it. So then suddenly all of the dopamine, now they used to have 2 dopamine and they needed to have caffeine to make it as effective as 5. Now they might have 4 or even 5, and now they're having coffee on top. So it's getting hyper-stimulated. They're increasing the dopamine sensitivity. They're lowering that threshold where it's actually getting involved. And then all sorts of other weird things happen. They get kind of crazy where they may not have before. What's the point of all that? I don't know. Might be useful for you to know if you're anywhere in that line of experience and continuum. Relate, find it useful, speak to your own doctor about anything to do with medication, always, 100% of the time, And now, there can be some concerns with dopamine, with caffeine. We don't really want to be having as much as we often do. There's downstream consequences that affect sleep generally. Some people, if they're super ADHD, they actually need to have a cup of coffee to go to sleep. There's mechanisms for that too, but our brains are nifty, aren't they? So generally though, we overall can benefit if we're able to function on a lower dose of caffeine, because we also do equilibrate over time. We get used to a certain amount. If I have 6 coffees every day, then for me to get a higher, to feel more, I might need 7 the next day. So if we can keep it at 1 or 2, then we can get more of an effect from each one. And sometimes even having a day off coffee, which is very hard to do for most of us because we're super addicted, can be really, really, really good to lower that tolerance, I guess we could call it. Don't go from having 13 cups of coffee to 0. You'll have the worst headache of your life. Oh my gosh. But tapering back might be good. Yes. Okay. That's what we got. Oh yeah. There's a whole lot of supplements that are really useful. I find even just replacing coffee with decaf or green tea. Super, super helpful because I crave drinking something that's slightly stimulating, but the full dose of however 100 and something, 120-ish micrograms of caffeine is more than I might really need. So micrograms, milligrams, who knows? One of those. One will be way too much or too little. But I have been really enjoying, I've been taking maca, M-A-C-A supplements lately, and for whatever reason, they're decreasing my desire to caffeinate. I find also just quality of diet, like the more greens and vegetables and live foods I can have in my diet, the more energy I have overall, the less I'm seeking it in other places. And there is this paradoxical relationship where often if I'm really, really tired, I want that kick from coffee. Generally, the best thing I could do would be to drink a whole lot of water and hydrate properly. And that'll almost, 9 out of 10 times give me the energy that I was looking for in the coffee in the first place, which actually just dehydrates me. It's a diuretic, makes me pee. And vasoconstricts, it's generally coffee dehydrates you. But I take it because I want to feel energetic. Being dehydrated, you don't feel that energetic. So being very strategic about reducing caffeine when you don't need it means that then if a certain time you have an assignment or a project or it's crunch time at work, then you can have an extra coffee or two there and you're going to really feel the effects. It's going to have a really elevated response because you are not you haven't been smashing 50 cups of coffee a day, so you notice it more, you're more sensitive to it, you're less desensitized, probably is better language. Anyway, big rambling video about coffee, wanted to get something out. There you go. Hopefully there's some things in here that are useful. If they are, please let me know. If you want me to elaborate on any, write it in the comments and I'll get to it eventually, because I would like to do that. And yeah, okay. Thanks for tuning in. I will be posting a new video every single day of 2024. So if you want to see tomorrow's video or all the rest that I do for the rest of the however many months, hit subscribe if you want, when you get more cool stuff. Maybe better than this, maybe worse, but more. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks for coming. Bye.